Hi, you guys. So I want to do a quick video on a set of transits that we're smack dab in the middle of, and to provide some perspective on it. So specifically, between I would say the 14th of March and tomorrow, the 17th of March, we basically have the Sun and Mercury and Neptune together, conjunct in Pisces, squaring Mars in Gemini. So Mars, which has been in Gemini since August of last year and has been retrograde. So this is the third and final square that Mars is making to Neptune. So as Mars was going direct the first time, it squared Neptune, then it squared Neptune on the way back, and now it's squaring Neptune again for the final time from Gemini to Pisces. But with this final square, and I think it's worth it because it is a final square, and because the final square is happening in this kind of strange, the Sun and Mercury conjunct numerous times during the year. The Sun conjuncts Neptune every year. Mercury conjuncts Neptune every year. So, these are not, that you can argue that these are not massively meaningful transits, but it's still, but when you have a retrograde planet getting ready to square up, when a planet is retrograde, it's always worth it to think about or observe what the major transits are that it is making during its retrograde cycle. And when something like this happens, that as it's making its final square, it's squaring three planets that are conjunct in Pisces, it is worth it to pay attention. Now, Mars, during its retrograde cycle, not only has squared Neptune in Pisces, it's also trined Saturn. And it's going to trine Saturn for the third and final time on March the 30th. Two of these trines happened while Mars was in Gemini and Saturn was in Aquarius. Well, at this point in time, Saturn has moved into Pisces and Mars is going to be moving into Cancer, the sign of Cancer, on the 25th of March. So we are going to have a third and final trine there. So to summarize, Mars, while it has been in Gemini and it has gone through its retrograde cycle there, has squared Neptune in Pisces and trined Saturn in Aquarius, and for the final time in Pisces as part of this cycle. The square to Neptune happened a couple of days, depending on where you are, yesterday or day before yesterday. But this strange square that is happening between Mars and the Sun, Mercury, and Neptune is currently at play. And as you head towards March the 30th, Mars by that time will have changed signs into Cancer, but it will trine Saturn the third and final time. Now, let me just summarize what the energies right now may be feeling like. It's not a square between Mars and any one of these planets, let alone three of these planets that are together, is not a very comfortable transit. So the most generic thing that I will say is it's very likely that its energies have built through all of last week, headed towards Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week that we're currently in. There are and have been uncomfortable energies afoot. Now, as you know, I do these videos for people across the spectrum of astrology familiarity. So I'm going to start with the most basic of statements. The discomfort whenever a planet like Neptune is involved and whenever Mercury is close to the Sun. Again, let me not go into the transits just yet. The question at play is, what is transparent and clear and what is not transparent and what is unclear? Is there dishonesty involved? Is there some element of, we can use the word gaslighting, or behind the scenes behavior involved? When a planet like Neptune is involved, it can typically mean three things on a more mundane level: heightened spirituality, heightened creativity, or else a loss usually created through some kind of deception or some kind of deceptive gaslighting, lying, truth, smoke, pulling the wool over someone's eyes, kind of smoky behavior, obfuscating or hiding what's actually going on. With Neptune, I observe that Neptune is a planet that tries to connect us so strongly with the other realm, with the non-real, non-3D realm, that often Neptune gets connected with loss. What is it that actually is yours and what is not yours? And the fact remains, and you've heard me say this lots of time with Neptune, we come in with nothing, we leave with nothing. So nothing and nobody is really yours. But as we go through life on this planet, attachment and what we want and what we want to hold on to and what constitutes our identity affect us in very real and very emotionally charged ways. And part of what can make Neptune a challenge is that it attempts to dissolve these attachments. And in creative and spiritual ways, the dissolution of these attachments can be seen as a positive. In the removal of attachments to material things or specific people or things that we hold dear to us or that we consider part of our identity, the loss can be challenging or troubling. When you also have the sun involved in transits, very often I find with the sun that there are downloads taking place, for lack of a different way of putting it. The sun has been given so much yang energy in contemporary Western astrology. I find, and it is a male planet in comparison to the planet that it is often compared to astrologically, and I use the word planet sort of in a whole accompanied. I know that the moon is not a planet, but from an astrological perspective, we will call that body a planet. And you know, Venus and Mars are often compared to each other, Jupiter and Saturn, and the sun and the moon. And in the sun-moon comparison, granted, the sun is imbued with more yang and more masculine qualities, and the moon is imbued with more feminine qualities. But the sun, I find, taps us into this kind of inner core that is not clouded by personality, and that is not clouded necessarily by emotion. And even intuition, emotion and intuition are gateways to what may be truthfully happening. The sun, I find, operates more as this kind of giant spotlight, and when it is in a certain part of a chart, or when, you know, everything can be seen clearly. All the shadows are visible, and you can see all the dust bunnies and all the spiders and everything that is hiding in the crevices. Visibility, awareness. And so when the sun conjuncts Mercury and Neptune, one of the questions that can be asked is, on a very internal, very quiet level, you may very well have an awareness of where the Mercury, what the truth is in a particular situation, and an awareness that what is being presented often is not what it seems. And it can be outright dishonesty and deception, or it can be behaviors that are complex and require a certain amount of wisdom and clarity to be able to actually see what is going on around you, what people's motivations are, what triggers them, what makes them behave in a certain way. Is it really, are there misunderstandings at play? Are there different types of people at play? And so can you really trust who, you know, where does wisdom sit and where does it not? And that can mean into the way people make decisions and people interact with each other and how they protect each other and how they may or may not be protecting you. And you may feel like you are seeing into the challenges or the dangers of a situation at present in a way that is internally known and clear, but maybe externally unclear. And when Mercury is close to the sun in this way, it is combust, as we call it, because it is, you can't, you know, any planet that is this close to the sun is not visible to the naked eye. It is hidden by the sun's brightness. And as Mercury, the planet that governs our mental communicative capacity, not our inner intuitive knowing, but its translation into external communicative and transactional action, there could be downloads taking. The inner knowing is the theme, and inner knowing towards something creative or spiritual, but especially towards behaviors that you might be seeing around you, or not even around you physically, but you might be aware of, that are hidden and murky and dishonest, is very much the case. Now, it is possible that when you have Mars squaring these planets, that there is actually something going on now that you have an inner awareness of, but you can't. Is there a need to protect yourself from energies in the part of the chart where Gemini sits for your chart? What house does Gemini occupy? Who is represented by that part of the chart, or the house that Gemini is in your chart? And are there boundaries that need to be set around people associated with that part of the chart? And in the setting of boundaries, is what is at stake or what is being affected represented by the Pisces part of your chart? That's really the question. And now that becomes a little bit deeper and more specific astrologically. So if you know your chart, you know where Pisces sits, you know where Gemini sits. Once again, the question is the what is at stake, maybe, or what stands to be lost, or where is there deception taking place, is in the Pisces part of the chart. The who and where and against whom the boundaries need to be set may very well be in the Gemini part of the chart. If things are clear, you may already find that you are in a boundary setting place. But I really think that as Mercury starts to gradually distance itself from the Sun, it's overtaking the Sun, it's going to be moving ahead of the Sun now. It's going to enter Aries in a few days, I think in 2 or 3 days actually. And as more and more planets clear this Piscean energy and enter Aries, it's very likely that the energies are going to become more yang again, and more importantly, I don't necessarily know that there's a need to panic based on how something may feel uncomfortable. I think it's fair to think that boundaries may need to be set, and you may already find that you are setting them somehow. It may not be quite as yang or direct a way of doing it, but boundary setting is happening, and an awareness of murkiness. Murkiness could mean if you are currently involved or close to a group of people, an awareness of a couple of people here kind of texting, or you know how in groups of people or groups of friends, they're friends who are closer with each other, or you know, or there's an awareness that there's more happening sort of behind the veil. As I said, in some cases, this could be outright deceptiveness and dishonesty. In some cases, the stakes may not be quite as intense, but the awareness is there, and there is a need with a transit like this to be aware of it, because even if the transits are mildly murky, you never know what that behavior can lead to and how it might come to bite you in the behind later for some reason, and there may be room for clarity. The good news is that as Mars moves forward and makes its trine to Saturn in Pisces, there's an opportunity over the next 10 to 15 days as we head towards the 30th of March to be able to, I would say, we have the Sun enters Aries on the 20th, and on the 21st, I think Monday, we have our first new moon in Aries. We have 2 new moons in Aries this year. A new moon on the 21st of March, and then on the 19th of April, a new moon solar eclipse. Okay? It's really interesting as transits occur during the year, which sign sees a great deal of focused action and energy, and which signs don't in the way that planets transit them. Certainly the Capricorn Mercury retrograde and transits that occurred in December and January of this year had carried more weight and impact than the transits of the Sun, Venus, and Mercury through Aquarius and even through Pisces. As the planets move into Aries and then Taurus, where the next Mercury retrograde will take place, those signs will become really important. And the sign of Aries, after this action in Capricorn in January, the sign of Aries especially big with these 2 new moons and a solar eclipse and Chiron present there, etc. So more on that in future videos. But as you make it into the new moon, as we head through the rest of this week, our energies are going to become more and more depleted. The moon is going to become smaller and smaller and smaller. The wave is receding from the shore, and then the new moon will occur on the 21st, and we will start to move forward again. It could be that between now and the new moon, it is a good time to be in reflection. It is a good time to reflect on the energies that have been building and the things that you've been becoming aware of over the last week and a half as these transits have been happening, these conjunctions in Pisces between the Sun, Mercury, and Neptune, with Mars squaring all 3 planets in quick succession. And it may be that as you head into the weekend and towards the Monday new moon, reflection and a more quiet boundary setting may very well be in order. Even action planning on a personal level, thinking about what it is that you feel needs to be done. Once the new moon occurs, and particularly as it starts to move forward, as the wave starts to move first towards the March 30th date and Mars trining Saturn, you may find it easier to be in action to defend or protect yourself against any energies that feel backbitey or behind the scenes or hidden in some way, whether they're playing out in a more mundane level or a more direct level. What is fascinating, of course, is that Mars is going to trine Saturn, and Saturn is now in Pisces, where the Sun, Mercury, and Neptune currently are conjuncting. And Saturn requires us over the next 2.5 years to act responsibly and take very seriously activities related to the Pisces part of our chart, to take actions through the lens of wisdom and not emotional reactivity, even if you feel you're right or you are right, to ensure that the consequences that those actions generate are as productive for you as possible. So it could be that while right now the energies have a certain amount of stress or friction or a kind of deceptive or a hidden quality that may worry you, where you are experiencing a certain amount of murkiness, I would urge you to tap into what you feel like you know internally. And you may not know internally what it's a different kind, it's a knowing and understanding what is real and what is not. It's less about the drama and the politics, I would imagine, in some cases, than about actually being able to put your finger on a very quiet internal way around trusting your own sense of where something is going and what the truth about a situation is. Because other people may be aware of it or may have their own lens, and other people may not be able to see where things are going just quite yet, even if they're acting in a particular way and driving things to a particular conclusion. So as you head towards March the 30th, just know, this is the reassurance I want to give you in this video, which is whatever this awareness is of things that are either happening or brewing or happening right now, whatever it is, as you head towards the 30th, there is room to take action towards building a stronger... The action may well need to be taken where Mars is, in the sign of Cancer, but the action taken there, whether it is towards the pursuit of certain goals or the assertion of boundaries or some kind of defense, attack or defense related to some kind of conflict, whatever activities are taken in the Cancer part of your chart stand to, as you head towards the 30th, help build a strong and lasting foundation in the Pisces part of the chart. Take advantage of Mars trine Saturn as you head towards the 30th, but also be clear with Saturn involved that if the actions that you're taking are fundamentally emotionally reactive and not respectful of the parties involved, Saturn will produce consequence. So it becomes important with Mars as you pursue goals or as you engage in appropriate conflict to defend your interests. Be clear about what your intentions are and really think about what actions need to be taken that will produce productive consequences. And with the planet Saturn, consequence becomes really, really important. You may choose to, or you may feel you need to, and you may well be right, determine that a boundary very clearly needs to be set. You just need to be clear that as you take those actions, you do it in such a way that it can actually lead to Saturn is very clear, and you just need to be sure that you're doing it in such a way. Emotional reactivity, even if you're right, can create its own baggage. So you just need to be clear that you're doing it in such a way that you're doing it as wisely as possible, as maturely as possible. And that does not necessarily mean backing down. That does not mean just taking someone's crap and not asserting a boundary. A boundary may well need to be asserted, but it needs to not be done in a rash way. And that may lead to a more successful boundary or strong, and it may very well be that the boundary needs to be strong and firm. You just need to be very, very cognizant of how you take those actions. And optimistically and positively, with Mars trining Saturn, it could very well be that actions taken in the Cancer part of your chart as you head towards the 30th lead to and contribute to building a strong foundation in the Pisces part of your chart. Saturn has just entered Pisces in it. The drama hasn't quite yet started, but it's a great way to sort of inaugurate and continue to celebrate the newness of this transit. Okay, I leave it at that. Feel free to like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on the squirrely bell icon on top of the subscribe button, and you'll be notified whenever I have new videos, and we'll talk more very soon about all this Aries activity and Venus entering Taurus and etc. etc. Thank you.